Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have Notting Hill. During Amber Heard's testimony, she spoke about her and Johnny's first time meeting and basically how they fell in love. So during this, she spoke about a time where Johnny was sober, he wasn't drinking alcohol, and instead he was drinking tea. Lots of tea. If you have been following the trial, her emphasis on how much tea he was drinking might have struck you as a little odd. I mean, I was watching it live and I was a little confused as to why she spoke about it so many times and seemed to care about it so much. Many people on the internet, however, are starting to believe that it may be a reference to Notting Hill. It's similar to a line that Julia Roberts is seen saying to Hugh Grant, and people out there think that the way Amber said it in her testimony was also a mimicked version of how Julia Roberts said it. It may seem like a small thing, but in the grand scheme of all of the quotes that we're going to talk about on this list today, it certainly becomes a little more interesting. In our number 9 spot today, we have Mildred Pierce. During Amber's testimony, she begins talking about what she claims is the first time Johnny hit her. While speaking about this, she claims that after this, Johnny said that he would, quote, rather cut off his hand, end quote, than lay another hand upon her. Many people believe that this is a line that was stolen right from the 1945 film Mildred Pierce. In this film, there's a scene where Mildred sort of suddenly lashes out and she ends up slapping Veda across the face. As Veda stands there looking surprised at what just happened, Mildred apologizes for her actions, saying, quote, I'm so sorry I did that, I've had rather cut off my hand. The lines definitely are similar, whether or not they were directly stolen from these pieces of work. Maybe they're stolen, maybe it's a coincidence, or maybe it just shows how rehearsed the testimony is. In our number 8 spot today, we have the talented Mr. Ripley. This quote is definitely one of the most popular ones floating around the internet today, and it is said to be in reference to Amber Heard's opening statements. People are claiming that Amber was directly quoting the talented Mr. Ripley, which featured a character who would shower people with gifts and then sort of disappear, sort of similar to what Amber testified about her relationship with Johnny. While it's floating around the internet that she directly quoted the movie word for word, I could not find a timestamp where she took the quote directly. Instead, however, I could find things that would sort of suggest a similar story to what was seen in the movie. The quote people are referencing says, quote, the thing with blank, Amber says Johnny, it's like the sun shines on you and it's glorious, and then he forgets you and it's very, very cold. When you have his attention, you feel like you're the only person in the world. That's why everybody loves him so much. Amber didn't say these words exactly as far as I could find, but she does say something similar. She talks about a sort of warm glow that was felt at the beginning of their relationship, and that he showered her with gifts and made her feel like the most beautiful woman in the world, and it would be in this bubble for 4 or 5 days at a time, but then he would suddenly just disappear. In our number 7 spot today, we have I Am a Killer. During Amber's testimony, she spoke about a time when she and Johnny were around another woman, and they were all under the influence of different substances at the time. Amber claimed that at one point this other woman leaned her head on Amber's shoulder, and she claims that this set Johnny off. She went on to allege that Johnny then at some point grabbed this woman's wrist and twisted it and pulled it towards him. It is then that Amber claims he said, quote, do you know how many pounds of pressure it takes to break a human wrist? She went on to say, quote, he held her and she looked frozen. She's crying. Many people online have pointed out that this line, which she claimed he said, is actually something that was said by someone who appeared in the Netflix show I Am a Killer. In the Netflix show, the woman was serving a life sentence for taking the life of her former partner who had broken her hands in this exact same way. The episode in question was called In Her Hands. In our number 6 spot today, we have Shrek 2. Okay, this one is certainly probably the silliest on this list and definitely a little on the satire side, but the internet will always be undefeated in seeing something and running with it. This is a moment in the trial that someone on TikTok was quick to point out was kind of similar to a moment in Shrek 2 of all of the movies that exist. In the Shrek clip, Prince Charming is looking around going, whoa, what happened here? In this TikTok clip, it quickly cuts to Amber, who says the exact same thing almost in the exact same way. I would definitely like to assume that she did not steal a line from Shrek 2 for her testimony, but at this point, really anything is possible. In our number 5 spot today, we have White Chicks. During Amber Heard's first day of testimony, she told quite a frightening story that she alleges is a real and true thing that Johnny did. She explained that there was a point where she had called Depp's sister, who is said to have showed up later to help remove Depp from the home, but as they were driving in the car, she told a terrible tale of what she says happens. She said, quote, he has the window down. At some point he starts howling out the window and he grabbed Boo, his dog, a slightly chunkier teacup Yorkie. He grabs Boo and holds Boo out the window of the moving car. He's howling like an animal while holding the dog out of the window. She does go on to explain how everyone reacted in this situation, but people on the internet were quick to point out a hypocritical moment. Not only did people think that this story was taken straight out of the movie White Chicks, in which there is quite a similar scene as to what she just described, but there is also an Instagram photo that has since been circulating the internet of a similar scenario that Amber described, but in this scenario, it is very clearly Amber who is holding the dog out of the car window. This has all made people skeptical of this story she told and unsure of the truth behind it. In our number 4 spot today, we have True Detective. This is a moment that is similar to the I am a killer one we already talked about, and it's in reference to the part of Amber's testimony where she was speaking to an aggressive moment that happened on a flight between Amber, Johnny, and the flight attendant who was on the same flight at the time. Amber claimed that Johnny grabbed this flight attendant's wrist, slammed it down, and said something similar to how a few pounds of pressure could break it. One Twitter user was quick to point out the similarities between this testimony and a scene from True Detective Season 1. People seem to believe that this was taken from the show, considering the similarity of this story to the other one we already talked about, as well as the similarity to the show. It is compelling that people are pointing out that perhaps either of these women might have spoken out or testified if these stories were true, but of course that doesn't mean the story isn't true, it's just an interesting question we have to ask. In our number 3 spot today, we have the article. This is something that wasn't stolen from a movie or a piece of literature, but it is something that people have been pointing out because it seems as though it is untruthful, or at the very least in direct contrast to something she had mentioned prior to their divorce. Amber claimed during her testimony that prior to her relationship with Johnny, she wasn't a fan of his. She said she wasn't a fan of his art, but when fans found an article from years ago, they began to question just how true that really was. In the article, it is said that Amber, as a teenager, had photos of Johnny all over her room. A friend of hers told the Inquirer that Johnny was basically Amber's first love, that when she was a teenager, she had already decided to become an actor, and that she had photos of him all over her room. They finished by saying, quote, "So it's no surprise they fell in love while working together. Amber can usually get whatever she sets her mind to." In our number 2 spot today, we have Alpha Dog. This one is more of a theory in relation to the trial rather than a direct ripoff, but it certainly is interesting. So we have all heard the story of the poo on the bed at this point. If you haven't, basically it's just a story that suggests that Amber had left feces in the bed that she and Depp had shared together after a night of arguing. It is said that she tried to blame the mess on the pair's dogs, but many people have suggested that this was just a lie to cover the bizarre action. This theory in question is that this entire move was one that was stolen from the movie Alpha Dog. In the movie, which she actually was in, although it was a short appearance, one of the characters who is under the influence of certain substances decides to defecate on his enemy's rug as revenge. It certainly is a cinematic move, that's for sure. Whether this is true or not has yet to be proven, but it certainly is a compelling theory. In our number 1 spot today, we have Maid. People on Twitter pointed out a similarity in Amber's testimony to a Netflix series called Maid. People specifically pointed out the part where she was talking about how Johnny allegedly threw a glass in her direction, then punched a wall, then punched the wall right next to her. According to people who have seen the Netflix show, which is about a woman who is fleeing a very harmful relationship in order to provide a better life for her children, it is said that this scene is actually in the show. It is entirely possible that real life just happened to align with the show, but with everything else on this list, people certainly are more suspicious than they normally would be. Many people said that even during her explanation of this story, they vividly thought of this Netflix show.
Coming at number 10, the tissue. In a seemingly innocuous moment during the defamation trial of Johnny Depp, Amber appeared to wipe her nose with a tissue. However, fans around the world swear that she is not blowing her nose into the tissue, but rather sniffing something tucked inside instead. As such, wild assumptions and theories began running amok on social media, and the video quickly went viral. In a tweet, one user shared the video clip and captioned it with, "Yo, I've done some ish in my day, but I've never had the stones to do in a courtroom." However, as many people have pointed out already, it's not probable that she was doing this. Security would be patting down every single person going to that courtroom, and on top of that, there are very harsh penalties for consuming or carrying illegal substances in a courthouse. I really doubt Amber's team would be okay trying to help her conceal that. What's a more plausible answer though is that she was sniffing a kind of Vicks vapor rub to help her eyes tear up more during her testimony. This would then in turn make it look like she was crying and therefore help convince the jury that she means what she says. But before we jump into our next point, make sure you tap that like button to show some love to the channel. And at number 9, the flinch. After Amber Heard finished with her testimony the other day, there was a bizarre moment when everyone was leaving the courtroom. Amber appeared to actually flinch or recoil as she came somewhat close to Johnny Depp while leaving, even though there were a ton of people standing in between them. In fact, he wasn't very close at all, but because he walked somewhat in her direction, she flinched like a soccer player trying to draw a penalty. It was A1 acting, if you ask me. Perfectly timed given the weight of her harrowing testimony. The actress told the Virginia courthouse that her ex-husband had SA'd her with a liquor bottle and then threatened to end her life in March of 2015 while they were in Australia. As they were leaving, Depp, who as you know is partially blind in one eye, stood up and simply moved in the same direction as the Aquaman star, which is when Heard seemed to physically shudder and look terrified, even taking a step back as courtroom officials immediately turned towards Depp and put their hands up as if to warn him to stay back. Johnny Depp then turned away and appeared to shrug and smile as if he had no idea why they were all in a huff. And at number 8, objection. Some of the most popular words during the Amber Heard vs. Johnny Depp trial have been objection or hearsay, and in a bizarre moment all caught on camera, Amber Heard's lawyer completely misses the mark. As he was cross-examining Ben King, Heard's attorney Benjamin Rottenborn got a little too flustered. At first his question was objected to, and then the judge sustained the objection. He then tried to ask the question again, but when Mr. King started to answer, he randomly says, objection, hearsay, to his own question. And although it's not Amber Heard doing something weird, it still has to be mentioned on this list. The fact that it was her own attorneys doing this really highlighted how unprepared they were for this trial, at least mentally. And at number 7, do you know the Muffin Man? In another strange case of cross-examination gone wrong, one of Amber Heard's lawyers, Elaine Bredhoff, kept questioning psychologist Dr. Shannon Curry in the most bizarre way. She was absolutely fixated on the muffins that Dr. Curry says that she brought for Miss Heard. There was a lot of grasping for straws during this questioning. She attempted to involve Dr. Curry's husband in all of this to prove that she had leaked sensitive information to him. She tried to suggest that Dr. Curry had drinks and dinner with Mr. Depp to prove that there was some sort of bias there, and then she kept focusing on these muffins that she gave to Miss Heard. Dr. Curry explained that she frequently brings muffins into her office. On the day that Amber Heard came in, her husband was aware that she was meeting with a celebrity, and so she asked him to pick up the muffins for her. He brought them back to their home, and then Dr. Curry brought them into the office like she always does. She then clarified that she said to Miss Heard that her husband had purchased the muffins for today, but didn't do so as some sort of special present for Amber, like her attorney was attempting to suggest. Needless to say, her constant questions about the muffins led to countless memes involving the gingerbread man from Shrek. Coming number 6, similar styles. Clinical psychologist Dr. Shannon Curry also gave a possible explanation as to why Amber Heard chose to dress just like her ex-husband during their trial, and it's most likely due to her suffering from borderline personality disorder, or BPD for short. Dr. Curry was also called to the stand and explained that people with BPD will often have identity issues which typically result in people dressing like the people they want to be around. Dr. Curry explained to the jury, they take on the personality of the people they want to be around, the way they dress, interests, the way they talk. On the first day of the trial, for example, Depp was seen wearing a Gucci tie with a bumblebee on it, and then just 2 days later, Amber was spotted wearing a very similar tie which also had a bee on it. Social media users also pointed out that Depp donned a gray suit for the first day of the trial, and then Amber could be also seen wearing a pants and shirt combo of the same color to the courthouse on April 12th. Not convinced? Well, on April 18th, Depp showed up to court with his long hair pulled back into a ponytail, and then the following day, Amber had her hair done in a very similar way. In another example, Depp wore glasses during many days of the trial, and Amber Heard was also seen using a similar pair. Coming number 5, stolen movie lines. Okay, Twitter is convinced that Amber Heard had quoted multiple movies during her testimony. In a Twitter thread posted on May 5th, 2022, the Twitter user claimed that Heard had stolen from film, television, and books for her defense. A Twitter user posted these screenshots of the comparison and said, if you were watching Amber Heard and felt like some of those lines felt strangely familiar, they are. She's stealing from film and TV and books. Here's a thread of what I have seen so far. And so far, the tweet has been retweeted more than 4,000 times and liked by over 14,000 people. Among the evidence she presented, the Twitter user claimed that the quote from the actress of Drinks Lots of Tea was stolen by Julia Roberts' character in Notting Hill. Another part of her testimony, she said he'd rather cut off his hand, which she claimed was directly lifted from the drama series Mildred Pierce. Perhaps the one that took off the most though in all of this was the screenshot within the thread where the user claimed that Amber's opening monologue in her testimony is the plot of The Talented Mr. Ripley. In that post, the user claims, her entire beginning monologue is literally the plot of The Talented Mr. Ripley, actual quotes from the movie, and featured a character who showered gifts then mysteriously disappeared. The thing with Johnny, it's like the sun shines on you and it's glorious, and then he forgets you and it's very, very cold. When you have his attention, you feel like you're the only person in the world. That's why everybody loves him so much. Coming number 4, the bottle. In this brief footage that was captured and plastered all over TikTok, Amber Heard can be seen tightening a bottle and then placing it awkwardly into her pocket right as a courtroom official almost catches her. This video sparked mass speculation that she was trying to sneak booze into the courtroom. One user who tweeted the video captioned it with, "Is Amber Heard drinking alcohol in the courtroom and hiding it from the sheriff? Who takes a cap off and puts it back in their pocket so fast?" The speculation about her drinking in court came after authorities reportedly banned the use of bottled drinks inside of the courtroom. Law and Crime host Jesse Weber made the announcement and said, "We were just informed we will no longer be allowed to bring bottled drinks in court. The last time we were given this instruction was when Johnny Depp first took the stand." Coming number 3, crocodile tears. Depp's fans have been flooding social media accusing her of being a bad actress and fake crying, following her testimony at their blockbuster defamation trial. She spent 2 days detailing Depp's alleged attack, saying her former spouse slapped her across the face and conducted a cavity search to find illegal substances that he believed she was hiding from him. However, Depp's supporters have slammed the actress on Twitter and TikTok, claiming that she was faking her testimony because she failed to produce a single tear. Andy Signor even tweeted, "Oh my god, I'm dying. Amber Heard is the worst actor ever. This fake incoherent performance is sickening. All over the place. Too many details, fake sighs, forced tears, and looks to the jury. This is an embarrassment to survivors everywhere." With poet Joseph Massey adding, "I watched a little of the Amber Heard testimony today. How does someone cry without tears? Is it a medical condition? Whenever I cry or see someone else crying, it's a real mess that requires multiple tissues if not a small mop." Coming number 2, caught smirking. Amber Heard has failed to present any actual evidence that proves Johnny was attacking her, but the actor has presented plenty of evidence that she was horrible to him. In a set of tapes recorded by Johnny, Depp is asking Amber Heard about a time in which she hurt him with a door and proceeded to punch him straight in the face. She apologized for hitting him with a door, but she is on record saying that she meant to actually clock him in the face. There's a video of her deposition in which she is listening to the tape. In the recorded exchange, you can see a confused Johnny while trying to ask Amber what she was apologizing for. Initially, she says she is sorry for punching him, but then she clarifies that she's only sorry about the door. She then goes on to say that she meant to punch him in the face after Johnny described the entire scenario of how things happened. Throughout the whole time that she was listening, there was a clear grin on her face as if she was almost enjoying it when she recalled that moment. And last but certainly not least, on our number 1 spot, Amber's admission of guilt. In April of last year, Johnny Depp had filed a defamation lawsuit against Amber Heard for $50 million after she wrote an opinion piece for the Washington Post about the duress that she was suffering from just being with him. As a result, Depp was fired from his role as Captain Jack Sparrow in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, and his reputation in Hollywood was severely tarnished. However, Depp's lawyers received a bombshell of an audio confession where Heard admits to hitting Johnny. In the audio, she says, "I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched." Later adding, "I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you." After Amber Heard finished with her testimony the other day, there was a bizarre moment when everyone was leaving the courtroom. Amber appeared to actually flinch or recoil as she came somewhat close to Johnny Depp when leaving, even though there were a ton of people standing in between them. Perfectly timed given the weight of her harrowing testimony. The actress told the Virginia courthouse that her ex-husband had SA'd her with a liquor bottle, and then he threatened to end her life in March of 2015 while they were in Australia. As they were leaving, Depp, who as you know is partially blind in one eye, stood up and simply moved in the same direction as the Aquaman star, which is when Heard seemed to physically shudder and look terrified, even taking a step back as courtroom officials immediately turned towards Depp and put their hands up, as if to warn him to stay back or something. Johnny Depp then turned away and appeared to shrug and smile as if he had no idea why they were all in a huff. Amber was then led to the side of the room by the courtroom officials before Depp exited through the rear door for a cigarette during the 15-minute recess. For the most part, the former couple have avoided eye contact during this trial. During Amber's testimony, Depp was mostly looking down at a piece of paper or looking off to his legal team. Before this seemingly tense encounter, the actress had broken down in tears as she testified that Depp had attacked her in what Depp's legal team are calling the performance of her life. This same incident with the bottle that Amber spoke about was also the same time that Johnny's finger was severed, because according to Depp, Amber had thrown a liquor bottle at him, which ended up severing his finger. But Amber testified that she did not witness Depp's finger being cut off. While testifying and sobbing uncontrollably, she said, "At some point he's on top of me, screaming, 'I effing hate you. You ruined my effing life.' I'm on the countertop, he had me by the neck and was on top of me. I'm looking in his eyes and I don't see him anymore. It wasn't him, it was black. I haven't been so scared in my life. He was looking at me. I was trying to get through to him, to say in some way it was me, trying to get through to Johnny." She then added, "My head was bashing against the back of the bar and I couldn't breathe. I remember trying to get up to tell him he was really hurting me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get through to him. I couldn't get up." Amber then became overwhelmed with emotion emotion and went on to say, "Next thing I remember, I was bent over backwards on the bar. I was staring at the blue light. My back was on the countertop. I thought he was punching me. I felt this pressure on my pubic bone and I could feel his arm moving. It looked like he was punching me. I could just feel this pressure." Adding, "I don't remember what I said. I just remember being really still, not wanting to move. I remember looking around the room, looking at all the broken bottles, broken glass, and I remember not wanting to move because I didn't know if it was broken. I didn't know if the bottle that he had inside me was broken." And according to Johnny Depp's team, they claim that the actress's tales of attacks by Depp have evolved with new and convenient details, and they plan on exposing her lies during their cross-examination.